Hello, BookTube. It's day 4 of Nonfiction November. That's, for those of you who don't know, an event that's organized by Gemma at Nonfic Books and Olive at a Book Olive that's designed to celebrate nonfiction, the great works of nonfiction, and to encourage you to read more of it. Uh, and in the course of the month, I'll be making recommendations, and I'm intentionally skewing a lot of these recommendations straight at one of the main intimidating factors about nonfiction, which is how recondite it seems, how invitation only it seems, how you have to study it for years, some of these ancient works, before you can appreciate them or enjoy them at all, or maybe even that nobody enjoys them, that people only study them. I'm here to tell you that's not true. These things, some of their manuscripts, as we mentioned yesterday, survived only by happenstance, but the ones that are revered for a reason. It's not just because scholars do it. It's because ordinary people have read them and found them wonderful forever and ever. And the example that I want to give today is a long shot sell at BookTube. I may be one of the very first BookTubers ever to mention it. It was written right around AD 400, right around the year AD 400, a very, very long time ago, long before we get to Rainbow Rowell. And it's the Confessions of St. Augustine. It's a relatively short work written by a churchman in Africa, in northern Africa, around AD 400, who had belonged to a different religion for most of his young manhood. It was in his mid-30s. It was in his 30s that he decided to convert to Christianity. And he was an incredible bookworm, an incredibly bookish person, and decided that he would immortalize that conversion in a book. So he wrote a book called The Confessions, and describes his earlier life, which was spent not only in this old religion, the other religion that he was a member of, an informed and well respected member of, but also his life that was mired in indecision and occasional debauchery. And as the book progresses, he tells the story of his increasing discomfort with that old life and his quest for a new life and a new religion, which in AD 400 they were the same thing. You couldn't have a life without religion. And eventually he reaches his moment of conversion. All Christian confessions of the period and later always have a moment of conversion, a moment like St. Paul being thrown from his horse on the road to Damascus, where a bright light suddenly changes everything. And true to form, St. Augustine's moment of conversion was bookish. He was in his garden and he heard a voice saying, "Take up and read." His change of heart, his conversion from one religion to another, was entirely literary. It was entirely intellectual. Actually, have a picture of him. Yeah, here he is as a young man. There he is taking a selfie in the bathroom of the local Coliseum. And the book that he wrote as a result of that, I doubt, the Confessions, I doubt that he would have believed that he would be remembered primarily for it. He wrote a masterpiece. He wrote a gigantic, mind-boggling thing called The City of God, that I can't recommend it high enough, but of course I'm not going to try on Nonfiction November. I know my limits. It's a very long attempt by the smartest person living in the world at that time to map out the Christian theology onto the world in a way that makes sense of literally everything. Literature, history, politics, everything. And I think it comes a whisker away from actually working. There's a way to read it. There's a way to read The City of God, even if you look at it and you think 1,000-page, ancient text about religion. I don't think so. There is a way to read it because it isn't functionally any different from the Silmarillion. It's both books lay out a fantasy worldview in excruciating detail, and both books also have long passages of glorious prose. But we're not talking about the City of God today. I'm just saying, Augustine, the young man Augustine would have thought that his claim to fame would be City of God. He would have been sure of it. The Confessions are something else. They feel more personal. Now, that's partly an illusion. That's partly a literary affect. But it's also true. He poured his heart into everything he wrote. And reading the Confessions is amazing. It's getting inside the mind of someone from an impossibly remote era who's being honest on the page in a way that virtually no other writer had been before him, and certainly no Christian writer. I know I know a lot of Christian scholars who will say that Christianity endures, and ends with the writings of St. Paul, and I don't agree with that. The whole point of early Christianity is that it too is a tough sell. It's not institutionalized yet. It's very rare that you'll find a whole community that knows nothing else. Even in Augustine's day, it is still a religion of conversion. And it shows a lot of its most interesting qualities in that light, and never more so than in the Confessions. So today, I wanted my Nonfiction November recommendation to be the Confessions of St. Augustine. Now, there are many, many, many translations that are out there, some more wooden than others. I don't understand that. Augustine is not a wooden author. Read in the original, he's electric. I assume that the reason that so many of his translations come off as wooden has a lot to do with something that didn't really exist when he wrote his books, which is the world-straddling, incredibly domineering magisterium of the church that now creates a whole, over time has created a whole body of scholars. There's become a very regularized atmosphere to this it wasn't true in Augustine's day, and it certainly isn't true in his writings. But nevertheless, the Penguin Classic translation is fine. The Oxford World Classic translation is especially good. And the wonderful thing about the Confessions is that you don't really need to worry about the critical apparatus of whatever translation that you find. Because Augustine is a perfect example of in the Confessions, or actually in the City of God as well. He's a perfect example of a point I've been making for the last 4 days, which is that good nonfiction is every bit as convincing and energetic world building as good fiction, and isn't often given credit for that. The standard idea of nonfiction is that you have to do a lot of preparation before you launch onto it. Unlike, for instance, a new novel set in America, set maybe in your hometown, set in the present day. And that's not true. You don't have to do much more preparation. First of all, the tools of preparation are all around you, and it's easy to do. You could, if you spend half an hour online reading about St. Augustine and about the Confessions, hell, even go to Amazon and read the reviews. There you go. After half an hour of doing that, you will be fine to launch into reading the book itself. And it's had such a long history and cast such a long shadow on the faith writings and even the structure of the Catholic Church since it was written, that why not read it? In addition to all of that, it's actually deeply moving. It's enjoyable to read, which is the way of all great classics. So I thought, especially today, because the 4th of November. Once upon a time, in large parts of the world, it was the Saint's Day of St. Augustine. So it seemed like the apropos day to make what I suspect is a doomed recommendation, but even so, that's what Nonfiction November is all about, at least on this channel. I highly recommend, if it strikes you as up your alley, that you give the Confessions of St. Augustine a try. I'm not recommending City of God. I'm not recommending that you do that, although, oh my God, it won't let you go if you start it. But I am recommending this book. It's relatively short, and it's extremely well made. Why it's been venerated for so long. So there you go. That's my Nonfiction November recommendation for today. A little bit hopeless, and if you think this is hopeless, wait till you see the next 2 days. But I'll join you then, BookTube. Thank you.